Get the rock-solid support you need with an integrated jumbo-size wrist rest. An innovative smudge-proof surface gives you a sleek, glossy look with no fingerprints left behind. Over 500 programmable macros and 3 thumbster keys. Fueled by up to 2 32-bit ARM Cortex processors and a powerful 2 megabytes of flash memory, the Rocket Rios Mechanical Gaming Keyboard Series.
Good morning, and what a bright morning it is. We're here with Day 2 of StarLadder Season 10 SEA coverage. I'm Zayori Solo once again in the studio. Joining me remotely will be Blaze, and we've got another 3 good games today. To get things started, it'll be Johnny's Revenge, a.k.a. the New Orange, if you will, facing off against Immunity Dota. First things first, Blaze, what's the good word on this fine Thursday?
It's looking pretty good. Starting off, the sun is rising out my window and Dota's on my screen. I can't be happier. And these two teams are actually really fun ones to watch. I mean, I haven't seen Immunity recently, but in the past, they've shown historically that they have execution of strategy. When they have ping issues, they even overemphasize on mechanics and still outperform their opponents drastically. So you can really get pumped for that as well, of course. Johnny's Revenge, they're an interesting crew, an all-star team of SEA players, and really seem to be getting their act together. They're moving forward. They're not really obliging the StarLadder admins with their names, but yeah, we'll work through it.
Ah, yes, good old Balls. Apparently that is his real name. That's on my overlay. We've got Balls, Slicks, Godot, Black, Shaitan, and Risk. So they're actually tagged up a little bit more appropriately than you thought. I guess you were talking about JR, where we've got Johnny Winner, Sharky, Paulson, and Chibi. And, yeah, none of them are tagged up appropriately. So it'll be interesting when we get into the game for sure. Now, before we get into this draft, there's one thing I want to make mention. Immunity, Slicks. That is a player I know quite well. He's former Han Trash. Yeah. Here's the New Earth, really strong. I think he's either New Zealand or Australian. I think he's from New Zealand. But he was on Team Frenetic Array for a while, and then they turned into TT Esports. They were... It's kind of the #2 team for a while during the reign of Fnatic in Han's heyday. So Slicks is a new trainee in the way of Dota 2, but a player to keep your eye out for, Blaze.
Yeah, definitely. When he transferred over with, I believe it was Apple's DreamsNet was their team name, ADN, and they actually had some early results despite the fact that they were like only a week into actually competitively playing the game, and they were showing a lot of versatility, a lot of strength on his role specifically, and although that obviously disbanded, I think he has a pretty good place here with Immunity. I mean, Shaitan and Godot are legends from the Australian scene, and they'll no matter where you are around the world, you're not safe from the ping of Australia. They'll take you down anyways. I've seen them play North American games, European games, and just absolutely destroy high-tier teams. So, yeah, I love to see what they can do, but obviously Johnny's Revenge has quite a bit in their arsenal as well. Right now, opening up just with the basics, the Shadow Shaman Tidehunter, we can assume Winter's indeed going to be on that Tidehunter offlane because... that's just what he does.
Yeah, not a huge amount of versatility in Winner's hero pool since Johnny's Revenge has formed. We've casted a number of their games, and I think he's played Tidehunter like 90% of them. There was a stray game where Tide was banned, and Winner was absolutely forced to play Priestess of the Moon in the offlane. But aside from that, it's been all about the Tidehunter, the Ravages, the Anchor Smashes, all over the place. I'm also curious about this Immunity drafter, this individual going by the name of Testicles. I'm not sure who he is or what his malfunction is, but I like his style.
10 seconds.
I've got Godot on my screen. I don't know what you're looking at, but that's
Oh, not the I'm sorry. I looked at my overlay for a StarLadder.
Okay.
I think they take liberty. Maybe it doesn't mean anything.
I don't know. I really don't know.
I don't know who he is. Yeah, could be anyone. Mystery man.
Indeed.
Whoa.
Behind the veil.
Behind the veil. Razor Skywrath opener for Immunity, though. Nothing too crazy about that. No Void for them as he was banned out, but we'll see where they want to go.
10 seconds remaining.
Yeah, I mean, if it's a specific person kind of
5
commandeering
seconds
the draft,
remaining.
I'm not sure if they're really bringing that much of their own flavor because this is
Reserve
pretty much
time.
tried and true for the past 1,000 games. Razor and Skywrath Mage, they are the flavor of the month. And although I really don't feel they deserve nerfs necessarily, they obviously don't deserve buffs, and everybody else will be buffed to go in line with them quite effectively. So yeah, they're interesting heroes and they're very active ones indeed. I really liked the changes that Skywrath Mage received, and I hope that we don't even look at a revert, but. It's been interesting looking at the balance patches leading up to this and trying to see how they go from complete obscurity to hey, this is a really fucking good hero, and just finding opportunities to use him in different lineups and stuff like that.
Yeah.
What we're gonna see is probably Razor solo mid and just kind of dominating CS with that static link and movement speed
Radiant
advantage, and
team
then Skywrath will be roaming with another support and using the long range concussive shot to find openings.
So Immunity will finally settle on their 4th ban. They take out DP and Viper, lane dominator and member of the Deathball squad. Rubik as well as Ember Spirit, the 2 bans from Johnny's Revenge. And I have to say, I don't think I have ever cast this Immunity team, so it is always a little tricky to
10
sort of
seconds
predict what they
remaining.
want to go for when you don't know too much about their drafting style.
5 seconds remaining.
Yeah, we'll see where they go from here. Right now, like I said, it's the kind of
Reserve
backbone of the team, but they want to get a little tricky here, be able to outmaneuver, at least pick up a BKB carry. BKB initiator is also good here, so we're going to see the
Dire
Enigma
team
come into
pick.
play. Skywrath is fine for a solo zoning support, so Enigma will have his face time in the jungle, assuming Johnny's Revenge allows him, but even more common than in other areas, the SAAs love to invade, love to try to drop some wards down and create some havoc for those dedicated jungle heroes.
Well, both teams taking their time with this draft as they figure out what they want to do. But at least with the Enigma and Skywrath,
10
you've got
seconds
some
remaining.
kind of Death Ball synergy there with the Mystic Flare
5
and the Black
seconds
Hole, and even the
remaining.
Eye of the Storm for that matter. A lot of damage that can be put out that way.
Reserve time.
They need a good tanky frontliner on the side of Immunity. I think that's what their draft is lacking so far. Johnny's Revenge is covered with the Tide, but Immunity can't quite say the same.
Yeah, you got to think about how a theoretical physicist would view what's going on there when those ultimates collide. Mystic Flare, Black Hole, the Eye of the Storm. It's a mystical space typhoon. I don't know.
It's true. It's a good point. I mean, do you really feel like Razor is in a broken place right now, Blaze? He's just such a unique force in how he can be an anti-carry with Static Link, completely truck structures in the late game with Eye of the Storm once he gets an Ags, and then a Refresher on top of that. And if he doesn't opt for those builds, he can just kind of go for BKB and being annoying. I'm going to chase you down, do a lot of burst damage with Plasma Field. He just has a really unique skill set that he brings to the table, but I don't really have a super creative way to stop him from being first ban, first pick every game without totally ruining what he
Radiant
brings to the
team
table.
pick.
I think the biggest issue is just how well he fits into the tempo of the games right now. Essentially, when he comes online and what he brings to the table as far as skill set around the 25-minute mark, and the fact that he can still scale into late game pretty well with some good durability. It's pretty interesting to see that like when he's up against an enemy carry that's just trying to come online and just barely coming online to defend, that he can just go ahead and static link them. And if you get
10
one good
seconds
disable on that
remaining.
person, not only are they half dead because of the disable, but even when they come out of it,
5
they are
seconds
extremely
remaining.
lacking in damage. And it's like you negate 2 items from that person. So maybe you could make it so that it's not so
Reserve
punishing
time.
on the enemy for the negative debuff and things like that, and just give the beneficial buff to the Razor. So you can just kind of desire to focus them down. There's so many different ways you could take it, and obviously that's probably not the best way, and there's probably something lurking in the change logs in the future, but
Yeah.
I'm not too sure.
I'm sure Ice Frog has something up his sleeve, as he usually does.
The link breaks 100 units earlier, and he's suddenly bottom tier. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, that always tends to happen. You go from top to bottom once. People just always seem to overreact to patch changes a little bit. As we've seen with Batrider, right after which was it 6.79 when he had those huge nerfs, and then he was totally ignored, and then slowly people realized, wait a second, Batrider's still really, really almost broken, amazingly good, and then he came back to first pick, first ban, and then kind of fell off a
10
little bit more as
seconds
people got
remaining.
tired of the Batrider. So that kind of oscillating trajectory certainly does happen, but we'll see some more picks come out here. Johnny's Revenge settle on the Queen of Pain is their 3rd pick. Nice bursty mid-hero, and Immunity will respond with a Nature's Prophet for a little bit of Rat Dota.
Yeah, it's pretty fun getting the Eidolons and the Treants. If we were actually looking at them on the Dire side, I said that maybe they could try to go for some Roshan play for level 1, but that's not going to happen on the Radiant side, not even close. So we're just going to see some good push momentum, probably take a couple of tier 1s within the first 15 minutes, and it's going to be on Johnny's Revenge to try to prevent that. They have some good counter push with Ether Shock, Scream of Pain, but it's not really sustainable. They need the Arcanes and general mana supply to keep them rolling. Probably going to be Polasan playing the Queen of Pain, which is always going to be good. He plays some great utility spellcaster type heroes, so he always impresses me on the Invoker, but there are plenty that fit that build, the Puck, the Queen of Pain, and yeah, we'll see what he can do with it. But here is a trick right out of MVP Phoenix's book, the Warlock, but will it be a core?
That is the ultimate question. Will it be a core, and what is the signature MVP build? They've been going for the Upheaval, is that correct?
Early on, yeah.
Yeah, the early Upheaval. So I'm curious all around. Will this be even an Upheaval style Warlock? Will he be a core? Will he be a support? Obviously, the core Warlock can be quite scary. What are your thoughts about the support Warlock right now, Blaze? Is it even really viable?
Oh my! I can't honestly say it is. Like anytime I see a support Warlock, I'm not going to judge any player that, like a professional player that's willing to pick it up and feels it can work, and that's fine. But if you see him in a pub, you know that it's just not going to work out well, that he's not going to contribute nearly the level that you'd expect him to. I had some ideas with combining a couple of spells like Midnight Pulse plus Upheaval plus Song of the Siren or Chronosphere, where you can kind of set it up, lay it out, and get that channel rolling so that they're just stuck in the muck and they're taking tons of damage in this giant AoE field. But other than those really hypothetical situations, I don't feel like Warlock brings nearly enough to the table.
5 seconds remaining.
Yeah, and looking at the heroes they have already, it feels like he's more of a support than a core. But of course, this final pick will bring it all into focus for us. Immunity will settle on Windranger for their final hero, so this will be a core Windranger, which is not the craziest of things, but a nice change of pace as well.
Yeah, it really comes down to whether or not Johnny's Revenge picks up a carry here. I think they're going to forgo the hard carry idea entirely and just go for a hero that can fill the supportive bill with a little bit of pushing, good team fight, and good AoE damage. That's the important thing with Warlock's Fatal Bonds, the AoE damage aspect. If you get like 5 heroes, obviously this is like the best possible thing, but if you get all 5 heroes bonded together, essentially that means that AoE abilities that hit all of them do double damage to each target, because it's 20% from the 4 connected, and it just makes it absolutely insane as far as the potential output there. So you really want to get your AoE down. I used to run like Gyrocopter along with him quite a bit, but we see the Enchantress come out here, and that can be very effective for what Johnny likes to play. Sharky loves the Shadow Shaman. Johnny loves the junglers, and we'll see what he can do on Mrs. Sproink.
Yeah, this is exciting. Core Warlock, and even more exciting that it isn't MVP Phoenix that's doing it. We saw this as an MVP Phoenix pocket strat that we didn't get to see in the WEC SEA qualifiers because it was first or second banned every single game against MVP Phoenix. So some serious respect came out for this kind of strategy. So seeing another team try to execute it will be interesting and potentially disastrous, as few teams have really chosen to utilize Mr. Warlock.
So we're already seeing some interesting pickups as far as player to hero goes. I believe there will be some swaps involved, but for right now, it looks like Winter is looking at the Warlock. Like, I was trying to get the aliases right in my head. I know Sharky is Why You Gotta Be So Rude. Then you got Achin, which is Polasan, and Booyah, which is Chibi. And right now, they're on heroes that I don't expect at all for their play style, although it does fit their core role set, I guess.
Yeah, we'll see how the lanes settle down as well. They're going to do a 5-hero invade to get things started. And it looks like they may bump right into Immunity, who are well on their way to keep their jungle safe. We'll do some quick introductions here. And we got Godot on the Nature's Prophet on the Radiant side of Immunity. I'm Shaitan on the support Enigma. Slicks will be on the Windranger. Balls will be on the Razor. And Plums, a.k.a. I don't know what his real name is, on Skywrath.
Yeah, so we'll see them going through. That's Risk, by the way, on the alias Plums.
Risk. Yes, that's it. Thank you.
But it looks like nothing's going to be happening here. There is some long-range damage. The concussor shot will clip Winter on the back end, but they don't really have any means of pursuit, and they don't really want to. I mean, the Enigma at level 1, unless he's doing the Mosin play and going for Midnight Pulse at level 1, really isn't contributing much to the team fight. So Johnny's Revenge gets in. They get 1 ward down, and I guess they'll be happy with that.
Ah, yes, the classic Midnight Pulse of day 1, Star Ladder Season 10. Big plays, big plays.
Strong.
I'm curious how Immunity will choose to lane this as well. Looks like Slicks is their mid laner. He'll be on the Wind Ranger. A very flexible player. I know in the past he's played a lot of position 1, but mid lane does certainly fit his play style as well. We'll see Razor in the solo safe lane. Pardon me, no, a dual lane with Risk joining him on the Skywrath. Enigma will be in the jungle, and it will just be a pretty standard Nature's Prophet solo off lane, boots first, and he's got himself an Observer Ward there to try and get a little bit of lane control. How's Dire going to lane this? It will be an off lane Warlock. Okay, so that means in the mid we've got a solo Queen of Pain. The 2 supports, of course, Johnny in the jungle. And why you got to be so rude? Going to be on the Shadow Shaman. Of course, safe lane. That leaves us with Winter, Chin on the Tidehunter. So they are switching things up a little bit. This off-lane Warlock is an interesting take.
I believe actually that Lahiver or whatever, obviously they say this to screw with us like crazy. Believer, the Warlock is actually played by Winter. So this guy theory crafts like crazy, and he seems to find these awesome ways to build heroes and find opportunities to really get the most out of an individual. So I like the offlane Warlock, but it might be going down for First Blood.
Yeah, he goes Shadow Ward level 1 to get us some extra sustain. Maybe a little bit have to keep himself alive, and it will be for this initial onslaught, but I don't know. Warlock, a hero that traditionally doesn't play super well from behind, and he is getting zoned out pretty hard here. He will find a little bit of experience, almost grabs level 2, but very little stopping immunity from just doing that again. That was a pretty standard spread of spells they dropped on him.
We are going to see the flank come in, though, and they are making their way down to the bottom lane, so it is going to be a 3 versus 2 here with Enigma out of the picture. They've got the Centaur, they've got the Wild Wing. Let's see what they can do with it.
Yep, Risk takes an auto attack to get things started. They move around the tree line. Can they find the initiation on Skywrath? No, they can't. Slow on to Shadow Shaman. He takes a lot of return damage from the tower. Oh, no, it's a disaster the other way. First Blood is drawn, and Immunity split the bonus gold as the Shadow Shaman takes a couple of tower shots.
Yeah, Sharky just couldn't get in the right position, and then knowing that, he still went under the tower, thinking Winter's Heal would be enough. And albeit Shadow Word is a great spell, but it is not that strong level 1, and they just get absolutely destroyed there. That was a waste of smoke, waste of time, and a waste of the First Blood. So very painful for Johnny's Revenge. I mean, Warlock's just asking for a gank. Winter's like, come on, come down here, help me out. And then they're like, yeah, okay, we'll feed under tower, no problem.
Yeah.
This is not what he had in mind, but we'll see him just try to play defensively while Johnny controls the rest of the map. Looks like Ice Armor Ogre Frostmage is going to be the choice for him, interestingly enough.
You don't see that one on Enchantress too often. I always mention that creep is sort of a pocket strat for Doom, especially against someone who's harassing him quite heavily in lane, but Enchantress, I mean, I'm sure she'll be okay with some extra armor. She's a very low starting armor hero as well at 0. But the Ice Ogre is not particularly tanky either. Only 600 HP on that little guy. He doesn't have any armor himself. What a sad little ogre.
Yeah, he's pretty much got to cast it on himself as soon as he is able, but obviously the AI isn't so good as to keep that in mind. Yeah. But I think the only reason you really get an Ogre is either you're desperate for specific kinds of creeps that you don't get, or you're trying to go for a Roche play. And obviously the Ice Armor is very effective against Roshan and slowing its attacks. So
he's not even using the Ice Ogre. He's just letting him hang out here, and he'll die to the wrath of time.
Oh, I don't even know. But he's focused on his big tomato here. He wants to just get the most out of what he has on hand. And he's going to smoke up with 2 great creeps, the Centaur and the Hellbear Smasher. We'll see if he can actually find a pickup this time, or if they're going to be diving deep once again.
Yeah, even just the damage these two can put out from the Thunderclap and the stun is nothing to scoff at. 150 on the Thunderclap, then plus that beautiful 25% slow. You will go for the wraparound on Nature's Prophet here in the top lane. It should be an easy dive as the Shadow Shaman taking tower shots once again. A little bit of deja vu flying through. TP, scroll, cast. They get the kill on Nature's Prophet, but in comes Enigma. He wants to make it a 1-for-1 as he goes for the Shadow Shaman. One more auto attack will bring him down. Doesn't even need it. The Malefice damage is there. It is level 2 as he's now level 5. They'll dive this tier 2 tower. Queen of Pain on her way down with a haste rune. Screen of Pain over the tower. There's the dagger, and they will bring down the Enigma. A 1-for-2 exchange as JR level it out.
Yeah, Johnny's Revenge is committing way more as far as resources go. They commit their 4 heroes, they commit all their neutral creeps, but now they come back in, they get the Sprout, they get the Concussive, and that is going to be a pick-off actually for Slicks, who was a little late to the party on the bottom tier 2, but still is able to snipe off once they're in retreat mode. So right now I want to talk about the mid lane a little bit. The Wind Ranger versus Queen of Pain is a matchup that a lot of people consider very balanced, like very close between the two heroes and what they can bring to the table. But right now it's been Slicks just absolutely running away with it. He is 21 for 6. Chibi obviously not used to the solo mid as much as Polosan is, but even still, this is pretty disastrous for him. He only has 65 base damage. He doesn't really have like null talismans or anything, and he's having real trouble finding the creeps.
Yes, Slicks is pretty relentless with his auto attacks and a very high individual skilled players, to reiterate again. And we'll start putting extra points into Shackle Shot here. With Wind Ranger, it's all about the shackles. If you're one of those players that can consistently find pretty clutch shackle shots to set up kills, then you can make the hero look pretty imbalanced. Conversely, if you struggle to grab those long disables, then she doesn't really look quite so impressive. So in these team fights, it'll be all about positioning for the Radiant side, of course. Nature's Prophet, he's having a pretty good time in the off lane. He's just about to hit level 6, has 1,400 gold in savings all ready to go with his brown boots. He'll move to the side shop here and pick up his power treads to get things started. But Godot having a pretty good time despite all the resources that were put his way trying to shut him down. Winter's found a little bit of recovery as well, halfway through level 4. No point in Upheaval. A 2-2-0, 2 in Fatal Bonds, 2 in Shadow Ward as he camps out this regeneration rune. Godot will just come in and snipe it and then head down to the bottom lane. Cheeky little plays there as Chibi empties out his bottle. Yeah, they were trying to cover it up for him, but not so fortunate. They have the wards in place. They know what they can accomplish, and with that extra regen, they'll be punching out some trees with Nature's Call and trying to push down this wave, which that's one thing Warlock significantly lacks is hard counter push. He's going to go ahead and miss a kill here on mid lane as we do see Queen of Pain getting ganked up pretty hard. Yeah, and down in the bottom lane, even more space created now for Godot and Balls to go ham on this tower. They have it down to about half health, and the other forces in the mid lane will utilize the Eidolons. This tier 1 taking heavy damage. I don't know that they'll be able to bring it down as Queen of Pain coming up in just a few seconds, but they'll stick around and do as much chip damage as possible. Meanwhile, on the top, Johnny's Revenge grouping up for some pushing power as well. Johnny himself has the Wild Wing Ripper and doing a good job with the Tornado to keep that creep wave pushed back. Down bottom, Winter does secure a deny on the tower. That is the first to fall in this crazy exchange. 6 Eidolons now out in the mid, and Immunity will commit to this kill, I think. Yep, they'll get it into deny range. They still have a siege creep. No deny coming out from Chibi, and he'll get shackled, silenced, and bursted down as Slicks finishes him off for a killing spree with one more power shot. Of course, Immunity will lose their top tier 1 tower, but it ends as a 2-for-1 exchange, one of which are getting denied. Immunity come out ahead as that kill on Queen of Pain kind of tipped the scales. Yeah, Queen of Pain was getting really greedy there, to be honest. Like, you have a whole line of trees. You have a whole forest behind you, and all it takes is one instant cast silence to take you, keep you in a position where you can't avoid it. So that was brutal indeed, but Slicks is really pulling ahead as far as the comparative matchup there. He's 3 for 0. He's doing really well in CS, and he's almost found level 8 already. So getting those greater points in Shackle Shot, I do believe. They don't really need the ultimate, since obviously they're doing pretty well in towers right now. Yeah, and just holding on to that value point in Wind Run. This is a pretty standard Wind Ranger build. It's the best of both worlds. You get all that burst from Power Shot, your long-range sniper rifle, and then Shackle, well, the spell that needs no introduction, truly. Mid lane, Balls with an invisibility rune. Looking at this Queen of Pain, pulls out his calculator, does a little bit of math, considers the 12 wand charges and the Belt of Strength. Do they have the burst damage to bring down this succubus? And maybe they do. Godot TP's in. He will connect with the Sprout. There's your static link. Do they have a silence or a stun? They've got both. Queen of Pain takes a tumble once again, and Chibi That ball is rolling the wrong way. 0-3-1 as Quap is losing some serious
Radiant's middle
momentum.
tower is under
We are going
attack.
to see a smoke come through with Ravage available, but can they actually find an opening? If they're going up against 4 or more heroes, even with the Ravage, I'm not so confident. But of course, you also have to consider the chaotic offering. The Warlock Golem, the Reign of Chaos, they can send it down upon their opposition here in the mid lane, and that would be quite devastating.
Oh, the Reign of Chaos. Here we go. Smoke about to expire. Tide on the front line. Starts off with a gush onto Skywrath. There's the big rock from the sky. Ravage to follow up. It's a dead Skywrath to start off the fight. But that's all they'll find. And a kill is a kill. But lots of big cooldowns expended just for support Skywrath.
Their Golem's already dead, too. That thing took solo tank the tower the whole time. They get the golden experience from that, and they have nothing to tank up the tower other than the Tide himself.
Yeah, I mean, Tide is pretty tanky with 2 points in Kraken Shell, but I think Immunity can make a hold here. At the very least, come in for a potential tower deny if Johnny's Revenge commit to it. But they're privy, and they will back out. They do some decent damage to the tower. But I think that skirmish spells out the momentum in this game pretty darn clearly. Johnny's Revenge, all 5 heroes, and all they find is a singleton pick.
Yeah, if they had the Mass Serpent Wards, obviously that'd be different, but they don't have the levels right now. They just have so many issues. They spent so much time roaming, and they haven't found any real momentum. Sharky is 0-2-1. Like, he's just not got the kills behind him to really make his participation worthwhile. I also want to note how much they're participating the Tidehunter and trying to push him forward. They gave him safe lane farm, so he was able to get like 40 CS there, and then Winter was constantly stacking up the Ancients there, so he was just able to clear out a triple stack. But it's just fueling a mechanism, which, albeit is at a great time, 10 minutes and 30 seconds to have Arcane Mech, is pretty insane. But where does he go from there? Does he go like the Blink Shiva's Refresher? I guess he just needs to kind of be that big watermelon in the thicket.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Blink Dagger is the obvious next choice for him. After that, Refresher sort of does fall in line, though you start to run into mana issues, perhaps. Warlock in the top lane will get initiated upon. The ward comes out, and that'll be enough to keep him alive as the Wrath of Nature bounces around. But, balls around the backside. Connects with a Plasma Field, but he's actually pretty low on mana. Has just enough for a Static Link, has already popped his Eye of the Storm. And that damage alone, again, we see this max Plasma Field build from Razor. And, well, maybe a few days ago I would have said atypical, but it seems to be the new flavor of the month. We'll hold that bit of analysis, though, as Chin in the front lines taking heavy damage. Takes a power shot. Sprout comes through, but great reaction. And, wait, the Midnight Pulse. That's a Saboteur Midnight Pulse. It clears out the trees, and the Sprout will be there for about half a second. But this tower very low. Wow, even the Rasta wards come out, and the tower falls. They don't get the deny. Enigma secures the last hit with the Eidolons. Those are completely wasted Rasta wards, and not the way you want to use that spell here at 12 minutes into the game.
Yeah, I really don't know what they were expecting. I guess they wanted some combo of snakes and tentacles, but the Ravage was on cooldown for about 6 or 7 more seconds, so it must have been some kind of miscommunication that they could have locked them in, that they thought they could have locked them in place, and they certainly could not. Also curious if just 1 point in upheaval would have been enough to kind of keep them in that position and stop them from kind of dancing back and forth as they were. Anywho, yeah, we do see a lot of momentum swinging forward for Immunity. Tower kills, they get the Midas on the Wind Ranger, and they are just surging forward. And to go back to the Razor build you were talking about a little bit, the 2 points of Static Link, I don't think they really need that much more. Because if you look at the right clickers on Johnny's Revenge, they're almost non-existent. Like, you have some decent base damage coming out of heroes like Queen of Pain and Warlock, but Enchantress imbues her auto attacks with the pure damage from Impetus, and that you can't nullify that. It almost seems like it would be a waste to drain more than like 60 or 70 damage from any of these guys.
You know, that's a really good point. We mentioned in the draft this is the team that opted not to go for a traditional hard carry. He really scales in the damage, and even just clicking through these Dire heroes, you see they don't have too much plus damage. Warlock is the only one right now, and that's because he's right next to one of the Alpha Wolves and gets that pack leader's aura. But less down, everyone's pretty much at their base damage around 60 to 70. And like you pointed out, a max duration level 2 Static Link will certainly be enough to suck down most of that damage. JR's Revenge. What am I talking about? Johnny's Revenge. Group up, bottom lane, all 5 heroes, and they will pressure this tier 1 tower. Glyph comes out straight away from the Radiant side. A Nature's Prophet ultimate will bounce through and chip down most of their HPs. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, Immunity just grouping up and pressuring this tier 2. A little bit of split push as well as Nature's Prophet pressures the top lane. That forces a TP out from Tide, and with that, Johnny's Revenge will pretty much give up on the push. Quap left all by her lonesome
Radiant's
in the
bottom
bottom
tower
lane.
is
Immunity
under
will be
attack.
happy to trade their tier 1 for a tier 2 in the mid. But Reign of Chaos here in the mid lane. Rasta wards once more. Godot will get caught by the shackles off to the side, and they will have enough to bring him down, but it will take the Golem's attention as well. Now Balls gets clicked down by the Tidehunter. He'll just try and TP out. He will force the Ravage. Smart play from the Razor, basically forcing that Tidehunter to decide, do you let me go or do you burn your Ravage for 1? And the Tide will settle on burning the Ravage to secure the kill. And they do keep the tower safe. I believe it was denied. No, Wind Ranger finished it off. So it was still a tier 2 for tier 1 exchange, and maybe Johnny's Revenge can grab another tower out of it, make it a 2 for 1 with a few hero kills to regain some momentum.
I don't know, but we still haven't seen the black hole, and there aren't really any disables left on the field. They're trying to pursue onto Winter here, and they do get the Sprout. Unfortunately, power shotted through. They just cage him up and then unlock the door.
They have too many abilities that clear trees here for the Sprout to work effectively. We saw in that last fight with the Midnight Pulse, and now with the power shot. Oh, man, this poor Nature's Prophet. He just can't catch a break. He's trying as hard as he can, but his teammates are making it difficult. Tier 1 tower in the mid, still out of deny range, as once again, Immunity group up as 5. They've already finished off this tier 2, so they may rotate towards top in the jungle. If they have a smoke, now would be a good time to use it. They do have one on the Enigma. Maybe they'll move into the Roche Pit, or just do a wraparound onto the Tidehunter. A lot of options here for our Radiant side. And Tide is the target. They'll move in. The Silence, the Sprout, and the Malefice. He's the mech carrier, so he will pop it. He gets shackled, and it latches. Unfortunately for them, though, that Kraken Shell coming in handy, and he will just walk away.
Yeah, he's just like, okay, well, no trees around me. I don't have to stay in them, and the Kraken Shell really is a great way to deal with those situations. The Shackle Shot nullified, the Silence nullified. He just keeps on moving on. So they have a lot of healing on their side. They have maxed out Nature's Attendants, maxed out Shadow Word, and although those heals aren't very bursty, the mechanism is, and that should be enough in most cases to keep the target alive long enough for those big heals to take effect.
Yes, indeed. So now it looks like both teams will just slow down the tempo a little bit and go back to farming, finish up these initial core items. You mentioned the Hand of Midas on Wind Ranger has now seen some dividends and will pick up a Force Staff. Balls very close to a BKB, doing a slightly different Razor build. We've seen that Ags rush more often than not, but he just wants Magic Immunity here so he can go right into the front lines, not have to worry about the Ravage or the disables from the Shadow Shaman. With that, Johnny's Revenge will come to the mid lane, and this tier 1 tower will get picked off. Does not get denied. Shackle flies through, will barely slow down the Tide. Mystic Flare as well. A few more auto attacks to bring him down. His mech has already been used. Eye of the Storm, Godot from the high ground. He will take a Hex, but his worth has been displayed as he helps secure the kill. Shadow Shaman will get picked off as a double kill for Wind Ranger comes out. And Immunity will be, well, okay at trading that tier 1 for 2 hero kills as they group up, and they go straight up the mid lane.
Yeah, it's pretty funny that like so few kills have been spilled in these lineups that are extremely active, and it's because they have no real chase. No Blink Daggers are really on the field just yet. They're going to be soon, but at least for now, it's really the pursuit is just in their initiation and just getting closing in for 1 or 2 spells on their targets, which Tide just generally shrugs off. So they go a long way to get 1 or 2 kills, and in the end, we still only have 13 on the board. But I would still have to say if like there was some clause that forced these teams to fight to the death, it would still be, even against the Ravage, even against the Chaotic Offering, it still seems like Immunity are just trumping them.
Yeah, agreed. And even the Queen of Pain barely making it out right there. Slick scudding it out with the power shot, looking for the shackle, and just barely falling short of the vision necessary to make it happen. Meanwhile, on the Dire side, Johnny's Revenge will utilize their advantage, and they move right into the Roche Pit. Medallion and Rasta wards come out. Roche falling pretty quickly, but Immunity, they're right here. They don't have any vision, and they just don't seem suspicious whatsoever. Rather unfortunate is I think they could contest this. They have to be a little careful about their initiation angle, but they could at the very least move into the pit and make this a bit more difficult. But Johnny's Revenge will be rewarded with an Aegis, and it goes to the inventory of Chibi on the Queen of Pain.
Yep, if they have a yellow player on your team, it's definitely Chibi, and he's going to be going for the Aghanim Scepter here, so he's actually probably going to be able to get maybe 2 uses of that in a single fight because of the Aegis the Immortal. So that's what it comes down to, is getting a good Fatal Bonds off and getting the Sonic Wave on those targets. If they can accomplish that and just one of the big ultimates otherwise, I think they're in a really good position to get some major kills. But as the game progresses, we see more durability coming out. BKB finished on the Razor. The Windrunner will be able to pick up some bigger items of her own. And yeah, Godot's actually gone for the Orchid Malevolence. So no Midas for him, no slow going and build up of reliable gold. No, he wants to be active now, and this silence is the perfect way to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, a slightly different take on the Nature's Prophet, but this does let him get feisty earlier on, as they say. Blink Dagger now up on the Enigma. We still haven't seen a black hole yet, but as it often is, the threat of the black hole was enough to shape up these team fights. Now with the Blink Dagger, I don't think it's been revealed yet. Unless he picked it up during that last skirmish, he might be able to catch him off guard and make some big plays happen. I think Immunity could be well advised to pick up a pipe here as well, even just against a Tidehunter, Queen of Pain, and Warlock. That's a lot of magic damage, and a pipe could go a long way.
Sure, but it's also a tough sell for Enigma to pick up everything. The pipe, the mech, the blink, all the wards. When
Let Razor get it.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose so, but he seems to be going for a different build here. Like, he's already got the BKB, the magic immunity. Like, you usually don't care too much about your magical mitigation when you've got the BKB, that defensive item. Usually you follow it up with something more offensive, at the very least in Aghanims, because it gives you more utility. But
true, I mean, the Wind Ranger isn't necessarily the worst choice to carry a pipe around either.
True, true. We'll see what she ends up going with here. Finding an Invis Rune, bottling that up. Might find an opening, as there's been quite a few sentries here on the back line to make sure that there's not any offensive wards, but barring that, Wind Ranger might have an opening maybe in the enemy jungle.
Yeah, and there has been a bit of other item progression as well, notably that Tidehunter. He's decided to skip the Blink Dagger altogether and goes for a Force Staff. So wants to have that tool to possibly keep his teammates safe if they get caught in a sticky situation. And we'll give him some initiation power, but not quite as strong as that Blink. Speaking of Blink Daggers, Nature's Prophet secures that as his second item after the Orchid Malevolence, as we were just talking about. So some of that Rat Dota style from Godot will commence as he has that mobility tool.
Yeah, and I actually think it's going to be really good for initiating teamfights against the Warlock. Like, the Skywrath Mage can't get in range for Ancient Seal very easily because Warlock's got such an insane range on his ulti cast. So usually he's just going to be on the back line waiting for that opportunity. But you get that Orchid out on him, and you can just kill him before he gets the chance.
And great reaction from the Enigma. Almost jumped upon the smoked up Rasta, put a ward down outside of this plateau here, and went for the gank, but he blinks into the trees. Again, forcing that Tide to say, do I want to Ravage or let you live? And this time, Tide decides to save the Ravage, that it isn't worth it for a solo Enigma kill, and lets him TP back to safety. And with that, Tide actually TPs back to safety to try to repel the Rat Dota, and the rest of his teammates here in the top lane angling for some pressure on this tier 2 tower, but they see Immunity come to the defense, and with that, they will back out right away.
Waiting for some active plays, man. This is a very passive game for heroes that can do just so much. Both sides being quite cautious because they want to be the counter initiators rather than the initiators. But even still, I want to see Razor go balls deep. I want to see some real aggression.
I would like to see Balls Deep go Balls Deep as well. I just called him Balls Deep. But maybe that is his full name just shortened here to just Balls. He does have a smoke on, so we'll see. Immunity hungry for blood, as it were. But, oh, daddy, that's a big item pickup. The Warlock secures the Ag Scepter. So we got an extra rock coming down. That's 2 golems now.
2 golems, 1 stun. The big thing is going to be if Furion can get that Orchid off on him, because he still doesn't have a BKB, still doesn't have any way of dispelling the silence, and I've seen so many times where the Warlock gets to this stage, and then it becomes completely impotent when he gets silenced out and gets caught out. So we'll see, though, if that's going to be on the play for Immunity, if they're going to get caught out by it. Another thing to mention is that Enigma going for BKB is half pointless against a Warlock because that magic immunity piercing disable of the Golem.
Right. That's a very good point. That is one extra bit of utility that Warlock brings to the table with that huge AoE. Of course, the only bottleneck there is the cooldown. It's just about on point with that Black Hole. 165 seconds, and Black Hole still level 1 at 200 seconds, but has that interrupt undoubtedly. Rasta wards come down on this tier 2 tower in the mid lane. Tide in the front lines, hungry for a Ravage as the Midnight Pulse comes to try and do some extra damage and at least clear up the creep wave. Seems Immunity will be happy to sacrifice this tier 2 tower. They've got Nature's Prophet pushing in the bottom lane, and they've got their Skywrath actually way up in the top lane, keeping those Eidolons safe and sound, looking to do some chip damage to this tier 2 tower. Johnny's Revenge will not commence the push. They'll be happy with just the tier 2 and to make a defense themselves. Booyah in the top lane, pops the Scream of Pain, has a Scepter, so it's no big deal, and cleans up the Eidolons. Now Plums, well, He's okay. Knows that Quap doesn't have an ult. Actually goes for a kill with the Mystic Flare, but Quap will TP or blink back to safety. And no kill comes out. But actually a close call. If Quap was a little more careless there, I think she would have died.
Yeah, and also the Skywrath is still only level 9. I think he might be the lowest on the map. Yeah, tied with the Shadow Shaman and the Enchantress. So if you have like a level 11 Mystic Flare, that obviously contributes a lot more quickly. And yeah, I think that's kind of the reason why he was up there in the first place, was just trying to soak up that experience. He wasn't really in range to be on the offensive and help the push, but well, while the creep waves are dying, he'll be right nearby taking notes.
Yeah. And, you know, thinking a little bit more about this Enigma's BKB, even though Warlock has the piercing interrupt, I think it's mostly just for the Tidehunter. The Ravage is a lot harder to juke in terms of black holes. Not that the Enigma ult is, or pardon me, the Warlock ult is easy to juke, but the Tide is just a little more mobile. He'll be hiding in the trees looking for that Ravage initiation on the full team. The Warlock will probably be more eager to save his ultimate for the black hole interrupt unless they have a great opening. And I think he's sort of hoping that he can catch the Warlock more easily than he can the Tide, or certainly bring him down as he is a bit more squishy. So there is still some utility in the BKB, even though they have ways to interrupt it. But Johnny's, they're looking feisty here with another 5-man smoke.
They don't have the blink on Tide. They have the Force Staff. Will the Gush be enough to actually close the distance? We blink Shadow Shaman is the follow through, and I think they have it. Yeah,
they sure do. There's the Hex, Ether Shock, and Shackles to follow up. Scream of Pain.
Wow.
And a Ravage, and oh my gosh. So much blown for that. And sure, they get a double kill as they pick up the Skywrath. Kind of a consolation prize, but that is a lot of resources. Pretty much the only thing not used there were the Rost Awards.
Yeah, it's not often you want to dump your major teamfight ultimates and then immediately go and retreat to stop the rat push. Like, it's a all too frequent scenario, but it's just kind of unfortunate because they don't really get to capitalize on it in full. They get 2 more kills on the tower. They set back the Razor a tiny bit, and they take an extra charge off BKB, and that's about it.
Yeah, honestly, the BKB charge feels like the biggest victory there. I mean, sure, slowing down Razor's farm is one thing. He's middle of the pack anyhow. He's not really carrying that hard. He's not the super big farmer they need to shut down, who's really scary. It's more this Wind Ranger who all of a sudden has a Desolator following this Force Staff with another 2,800 gold. Slicks is #1 on net worth, and he is starting to pack quite the punch.
Yeah. We're also going to see this Furion pick up the Diffusal Blade, which somebody definitely needed to. I thought it might be the Skywrath, but obviously he's just a little too poor for that. So the Diffusal Blade will come out, and it will one-shot the Golem. The second it comes down, cast that on it, and it's pretty much a ATM machine. It gives you the cash, and you don't have to worry about any of the drawbacks. So, okay, interesting blink movement in mid. But yeah, so the Furion will be able to clear out one of the 2 Golems. Unfortunately, because the Aghanim Scepter is out, each of the Golems are weaker, but there is obviously 2 of them, and soon to be 4 if the refresher does ever come online.
The Diffusal Blade has an 8-second cooldown, so it is possible to diffusal both Golems and still get some utility out of it. But yeah, you're exactly right. That Ag Scepter does help mitigate some of the effectiveness. Up top, Tidehunter taking some damage, but he is just too big. Shackle Flies will latch. The follow-up damage just isn't there. Balls will get hexed up. He's in the front lines with his Eye of the Storm, taking a lot of armor off this Tidehunter. They need it to bring him down. Scream of Pain. Why do I keep calling it Screen? Scream of Pain flies through, does some decent damage, but not enough to keep the Warlock alive. Now Rost Awards come down. That will keep Balls, but there's your Black Hole. Connects on 2 around the backside, but where's the follow-up? No damage comes out, and now Shaitan just trying to make the escape. Throws a Malefice out onto Quap. She'll blink forward, has a Haste Rune on, now takes an Orchid, but the auto attacks might be enough to bring down Shaitan. Godot trying to TP out. He'll get interrupted. The Enigma will fall from one last scream, and they'll get cleaned up. Immunity bite off more than they can chew as they trade a 1 for 3.
Yeah, that's quite unfortunate. The drawback of going for all this utility and the Nature's Prophet is you're lacking damage, and the Razor was dropped down right when that Black Hole came through. So the wards were in a good position to just cut the aggressors off in general, but the bottom line was that Black Hole minus a Razor is obviously the results we see here. If they had the Razor, they might have been able to wipe it the other way, or at least set back JR much further. But as it was, Desolator Wind Ranger, not strong enough just yet. She'll go for the BKB so she can kind of stand and deliver a little bit more, and maybe the Enigma will be getting those last couple of points in Midnight Pulse as he levels up to 12 and 13.
Yeah, now BKB comes out on the Wind Ranger as well, so Magic Immunity and some extra damage for her, but I think they also just need to stop focusing down the Tide. We've seen a recurring theme in these failed team fights where they commit some resources to the Tide, and they even burn the Mystic Flare. They didn't get close to bringing him down, and you can make a case for it if he has a Blink Dagger so that he can't initiate on you, but he has a Force Staff, so he can still use that to scoot away if you jump on him, or also use it to just scoot further towards you for a big Ravage. And it seems like they almost just need to ignore the Tide and hop on someone else, or just crowd control him. They can't bring him down with standard right clicks. He's just too damn big.
Yeah, the Warlock is definitely the better choice, but he's not Winter Smart. He's not always going to be available, and he's going to make them work for it and try to penetrate his zone in order to actually try to find a kill on him without him casting a single spell. Because that's it. If Warlock just dumps 2 spells real quick, brief cast animations, bonds, chaotic offering, it's like you didn't even kill him at all because he already contributed pretty much everything he has to offer to this team fight. So the Tidehunter, obviously it's a desirable target, but as you mentioned, a very difficult one. He has 1500 HP. He has the Kraken Shell mitigation. He has the Force Staff to avoid things like the Skyrest Mystic Flare. And also the mechanism as well as a casual cloak. And I do not want to put any doubt in this casual cloak. That 15% spell resistance is absolutely insane against a team like this. Like, you can mitigate so much incoming damage, and you can... it's absolutely absurd how much that little bit tips you over the edge as far as survivability goes.
Yes, indeed. It looks like someone's having some lag issues here. Apparently Balls likes it when you lag. Blaze, better watch out. Who's Sean Smith?
That is a good question, and I don't know. It might be a cultural thing.
I have no idea either, but we will be stuck in a pause here. Again, guys, this is just game 1 of today. We have another 3 matches coming up, or another 2 more matches. This 3 matches total today. Awake versus First Departure will be our next match on the docket following the completion of this. Looks like we could be ready to resume. We got the thumbs up from at least one of the teams here. Why you got to be so rude?
So Sean Smith is a quarterback, or I don't know. I'm not into football so much, so I'm not.
Oh, quarterback. Sweet. Yeah, I'm not that into football either. Troy Aikman, he retired.
I got the terminology, but not the player. So I got Peyton Manning. Yeah. That's about it.
Peyton Manning. There you go. Ooh, now Enchantress with an Ag. So this is just an Ag Scepter kind of game. We see 3 on the side of the Dire, and, well, not on the Radiant quite yet, but a couple heroes that could benefit from it. Enchantress finally coming online. Still doesn't have a Mask of Madness, so she's not clicking too fast yet, but is level 11, so Impetus is that much more potent. And the Refresher almost out for the Tide, just working on the recipe now. That is a pretty scary item pickup. They've already had trouble dealing with the Tide, and 2 Ravages could be enough to really let Johnny's Revenge start to take over this game. They're regaining momentum, but still trailing by about a 5,000 gold deficit. The experience graph, however, tells a different story. Johnny's Revenge actually in the lead by about 1,000 as we see immunity smoke up.
And talking about late game potential is a little weird for this kind of matchup because there's no traditional hard carry. Like, Razor can go late for sure, but Enchantress is a support that can really scale into a beast later on. Aghanim Scepter for now, and the nighttime definitely limits that. But first we'll see the death of Shadow Shaman and the attempted sprout of Tidehunter. Not so much. They find their pick off. They do put some momentum out, but I guess at best that would force a Roshan or the top tier 2.
Yeah, second Roche has respawned, so it could be an option for immunity if they wanted to go that way. With a Black Hole coming up in just a second, they could feel pretty safe taking a skirmish in the pit there, even with the Ravage online and a Refresher inbound. Instead, they will settle for the top tier 2 tower instead. And Razor, he's actually pretty darn close to his Ags. He's got the point booster and 500 gold off those 3 remaining pieces. This tier 2 tower, they've been chipping away at it, but Johnny's Revenge have been very eager to defend this tower. It's their last outer tower, and I don't know if it's just a pride thing or what, but they are really adamant about keeping it alive.
Yeah, and the last sentinel of their existence. We do see a BKB TV coming out from Queen of Pain. That is a 10-second BKB used by Chibi, just for a little bit of rat push. It did force some rotations, though. They wanted that Queen of Pain, and now that they forced her BKB, they're going to go for Roshan. This is a great opportunity for them. No BKB on a Queen of Pain is a huge thing to lack in a team fight, and if they can time everything right, the Roche would be great. The problem is they don't really have great work presence there, They don't have any Radiant Wards nearby. Well, not close enough anyways, and the Dire one will scout them out. So they don't feel comfortable in that position up against the Golem, up against the Ravage, and they're just going to be kind of holding their horses for just a little bit.
Yep, Skywrath will go ahead and take the ward advantage here. Drops down a sentry, finishes off the Observer, and puts one down on the high ground. So they do have control of the pit, at least for now, but Shadow Shaman's inbound. He has an Observer here, and will place it out of range of the sentry. So now both sides with vision control of the Rosh pit. As we say that, BKB picked up on Shaitan's Enigma. And now Johnny, he moves straight into the Rosh pit. Immunity, do they get vision of this? Yeah, they sure did. So I think we could see a fight break out here as Rasta wards come down. They are sneaky about this. They hop around the pit on the other side, but they still catch vision of Winter. That was immunity vision we're looking at right now, and they caught a glimpse of it. If they want to contest, they need to make a move right now. The Medallion plus the Rasta wards make this so easy for the Dire, and they're moving that way, but Rosh falls uncontested. Quap grabs an Aegis of the Immortal once again.
Yeah, just a great pick-off for them. The Medallion makes it very quick, and they are able to control that area and get the much-needed immortality on Queen of Pain, as well as the Golden Experience, because there were a few people that were a little shy of their next tier of Ultimate. Now the Rasta is level 11, and the Enchantress is at level 13. These are actually really important heroes to get some good experience on, because later on, Johnny's going to be doing the carrying. This guy picks up like a Mask of Madness BKB, and he's going to be the one dealing the most damage, single target in a fight. So really does need to prioritize his farm substantially, and it is it sounds silly, but it is an extremely viable late game build.
I'm a little surprised that, given the nature of this draft, that they didn't secure a Hand of Midas on Johnny a little bit earlier, because he would be a lot scarier at this point, where we're getting to that point that carries start to come online, and Enchantress could be a force to be reckoned with if she had a Mask of Madness right now. But I want to ask you where she tops out at. I mean, obviously, Ag's Mask of Madness are the beginning cores. Where do you go after that if you're looking to be a 6-slotted Enchantress?
Sheepstick is definitely in that general investment there. I kind of like Rod of Atos too, just because you get so many more impetus clicks on them, but your general logic is if they're not BKB'd and they're affected by Atos, and they're probably dead to like 4 impetus strikes anyways. So from there, it's kind of difficult to call like anything that would deal with the BKB targets as your real threat. So maybe like an Ethereal Blade, so you can cast it on yourself and an ally and kind of wait those durations out. It's kind of it's an interesting thing that kind of seems situational. But speaking of situations, we see the Queen of Pain going for like this crazy combo on the Aegis of Prophet before he can get an Orchid off, and that Sonic Wave, crazy burst damage that he did not expect.
Yeah, definitely. The Nature's Prophet didn't even Orchid at all. It was almost like he was he was caught so off guard that he took so much damage, just like, what do I do? Sprout, TP, go, go, go! And it was a complete backfire. So Quap will get a bit of vengeance there. She has been the recipient of that Orchid and finds herself a little bit of extra gold to go with that Aegis. Still a 9-second BKB and 3,400 gold on her. Tide will bump into Enigma here in the secret shop. Balls hops in, does connect with the static link, pops his BKB and the Eye of the Storm. Now Booyah on the Queen of Pain comes in and doesn't do too much with that Scream. But again, does have the Aegis. They don't want to bring her down here, as she will get all that mana back. Ravage from the Tide. He has the Refresher. They'll bring down the Enigma. Ravage still available. And with that, Johnny's Revenge will continue the skirmish. Queen of Pain will also pick up a Scythe of Vice on the Courier. On its way right now. And this is starting to get scary for Immunity.
Yeah, most definitely. This is them pushing in without the Enigma available. 30 seconds, and that's a huge time to wait. They just drop the Golem on the ground. They don't even care about the stunning effect, because they know how important it is to take these structures right here and now. The wards, the Golems, they're doing work, and with all these heals, they can sustain the push.
Yeah, unfortunately, Enigma does not have a buyback here. 250 gold short. Tier 3 tower will fall. Glyph's already been used. Ball's in the front lines, trying to do what he can. They'll bring down the Golems, and now they'll get to clean up the Rasta ward, so at least they find something, and they make a hold. Godot went bottom and did pull back some of the forces of Johnny's Revenge, and making it a difficult choice to either go back and defend or commit for these barracks in the mid. But Johnny's Revenge will make the right choice and exchange a Tier 3 for nothing.
Yeah, so it did cost them a lot, though. That's 3 ultimates expended. They had Refresher cooldown. That'll be 90 seconds. And then they'll be really a lot more comfortable. This Tidehunter just needs more mana in general to be able to go for the double Ravage combo, and if he doesn't have full mana, it's just not going to happen. So has to be very careful about how he manages his Arcane Boots and pick up a good item like the Shiva's Guard to really make sure that he's going to be packing the most punch in those fights. In the meantime, Warlock closing in on his Refresher Orb, and yeah, he's going to just barely have enough for himself as well once he picks up the Arcane Boots. That's interesting. Like the fact that now we have to talk about not only are you dealing with Ravage cooldowns and Chaotic Offering cooldowns, but you're talking about whether or not they have one or two. It's also something that has to be clear in Immunity's mind, whether or not they're fighting up against this like unassailable wall, or if they're actually going to be able to punch through with a good black hole.
Yeah, and also about 5,000 gold now up on the Wind Ranger, over 5,000 as he finishes off that tower. Perhaps we'll see a Scythe device come out for the Wind Ranger. I mean, I feel like Slicks is kind of the carry for Immunity at this point. Almost more so than the Razor. He went BKB Ags, and he just doesn't really hit that hard. I mean, sure, he's tanky now, but he's just not that scary. The Wind Ranger with a Desolator and either a Scythe, or if he wants to go for an Ags crit or something like that, he could very quickly here become a scary right-click carry. Moves over to the side shop, and what are we looking at? It's a Hyperstone. Okay.
Oh, AC. Wow, I thought that was going to be a Mjolnir, but no, he really... Huh.
That's interesting. You don't see that item on Wind Ranger all too frequently.
I mean, it does
synergize. That's a stat-worthy item-hero combo right there, I think.
Yeah, I mean, they've got the Eye of the Storm, and then Slicks himself has -12 armor with the Desolator and the AC, so it's fine. It's just like, I don't know, why don't you pick a Shadow Fiend if you want that combo? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, that's certainly a good point, and I'm trying to look up very quickly. I'm actually really curious how often this hero has picked up Assault Cuirass, and is it never? I
think it's
no
been
records.
picked up before, but
oh, man.
Who knows? Ticketed events are a different story than the pub games you and I see every day.
Yeah, that's what I mean. In competitive games, we might have a. I struggle to believe it's the first time ever, but I'm getting 0 on my stats tools here. So, wow, I have to ask K-Poptosis about it after he wakes up today. Assault Cuirass on Wind Ranger. Is this history in the making right here? Star Ladder SCA, Day 2, Season 10. Wow.
I don't know. We've seen Shadow Demons win with double Mask of Madnesses recently, so this might just be another one for the books.
Yeah, very true. An odd game though. The tempo of this match has just been so much slower than the other Southeast Asian games we've been casting over the past few weeks. Only 22 kills in about 40 minutes, and it's also strange because both teams are lacking carries. As we've gone back to, you would expect this kind of play style if both teams had, you know, like a Void and an Anti-Mage or a PA or something, and they just wanted to sit back and hit critical mass and get huge. But these are pretty aggressive lineups. Both of them have a lot of pushing power, and because of that, it's almost like the immovable object meets the unstoppable force, and neither side is easily able to break the base, and they're sort of almost lacking in damage at this point as these skirmishes break out. So it's turned into this interesting stalemate where both sides are seemingly just waiting for the opposition to make a mistake.
Yeah. I kind of feel like Immunity's items don't really seem in sync with one another. Like, if you want to go for an AC, that's fine, but, like, you want it with an Aura strat that already has drums and Necronomicons and stuff like that already in play, where you can push hard, where you can fight hard with physical damage output, and things of that nature. With just her having it by herself, it's either her and the Razor stay up through half the fight and are always dealing damage for that duration, or it's really not consequential. So it's fine as a utility pickup, but it just does seem out of place in this environment.
Yeah. Also, just an interesting stat here is that the Wind Ranger is the only hero not to die this game. Slicks is 5-0-3. He's had a perfect game so far, as it were. But other item progressions, it is a Heart of Tarask now up on this Queen of Pain. She had such a slow start. A 0-3-1 opener, and now she has recovered. 2-3-5, and pretty scary inventory. No tier 1 tower in the mid lane, so Johnny's Revenge will press straight up the mid. They've got everything under the sun at their disposal. Double Ravage ready, and they have double Chaotic Offering. Warlock very close to level 16 as well, and he may try to save the ultimate until he can get that little bit of extra experience. Wards come down, and the Tide will hop right in, forces out the BKB on Razor, and then the just Force Stabs out. they'll be happy to say, all right, Razor, you clean up the wards, but that's the end of your BKB. Now the golems come down. The follow-up is there. Enigma with the black hole on 3, but there's another chaotic offering. He misses the Warlock. First Ravage flies through. Shadow Shaman is actually the first to go down. Slicks with his BKB on will repel the Queen of Pain off to the side, but she does survive. Golems going hard on the structures here. Quap gets picked off, but was it worth it? Range Drax will almost go down. 40 hit points standing, and they will clean it up. Now outside of the base, they go for the heroes. Second Ravage flies through. Where's the follow-up damage? They have enough to finish off the Skywrath. Godot trying to TP out, and he will. One last impetus will chase him down, but it doesn't matter. He survives as he makes it back to the well. Range Drax will get picked off, but out comes the Malefice onto Johnny. They will try to chase down this Enchantress.
Are you serious,
TP out from the
Johnny?
Tide.
He shot 5 impetus strikes from low ground to high ground. 3 of them missed. Where's the RNG on that? That is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. He only needed 2. And, yeah, that is just absolutely atrocious. Now he's going to go for the Mask of Madness escape. You can't run from a Razor, though. That's just not going to happen. He's going down.
And, meanwhile, in the bottom lane, Slicks finds a kill, and he's picked up BOTs now. The Rat Dota will commence. They'll finish off the Shadow Shaman, and Enchantress will buy back. Maybe they can still make a hold. This bottom tier 3 has gone down. But Immunity with a great response here, and Slicks with a heads-up play just to grab the Boots of Travel following that successful team fight. Shackle flies through and doesn't latch, and with that, they will be repelled. So a crazy, chaotic team fight, but end of the day, Immunity really come out ahead. They lose only their ranged racks. The tier 3 tower was already down. Now they'll move into a third Roche. They clean up Johnny's Revenge and get a tier 3 tower out of it and do some pretty decent damage to these barracks down in the bottom lane. If they can secure this third Roche, which it seems they will, Desolator makes it quite easy. Maybe they can still seal the deal. What a back-and-forth match here, Blaze.
Yeah, it was really good for positioning for Winter to get that second golem down, because otherwise the black hole would have pretty much ended the team fight. But even still, it was about a half-duration black hole that was able to make quite a bit of an impact, as when they were reinitiating with that second Ravage, they just didn't have the same resources that they started with. People were dropping left and right, and the hold was legit. Immunity were able to turn it around. Godot, in my opinion, should not have survived. That was totally Imba RNG. But otherwise, yeah, Immunity definitely earned that hold, and we'll see if it's going to be enough to take it in round 2. The Refresher coming up in 18, Ravage in 25, and I think JR just want to keep on going at it. This is critical mass for them.
Yeah, and I'm thinking about those numbers in my head of the impetuses missed versus the impetuses hit in that scenario. You only need 2 for a kill. You throw... Oh, man, that really was... That's like a less than 3% chance for you to miss all those in such a crucial moment when you're going for a kill. So it's maybe on paper seems like, oh yeah, just TP'd out, got a little lucky, but that was extraordinary luck. Maybe not 1 in a million, but 1 in some other huge number. Ags Refresher, the name of the game here, Blaze. We see balls now with Ags Refresher. There are 3 heroes in this game that have an upgraded ultimate, and 2 of them. You don't see that so often. Yeah,
this is not the average game, though, if you have to look at it that way. I mean, the 3 ultimates having such potential in these fights. I mean, we actually saw, like, there was, I can't remember what it was now, but there was a match where, like, almost everybody was getting Refresher Orb. I think it was an ESL. But, like, it was like a 6 Refresher game or something like that, and I'm having trouble remembering exactly what it was. It was pretty ridiculous, but this is on par with it. I mean, the movement from these teams are just trying to make the most of their ultis, but you always have to have that second one in the bag.
Yeah, and the sad part is there's still room for at least 1 more Refresher. The Enigma is the big one that comes to mind that could really benefit. And Shadow Shaman as well, if they wanted to get really crazy with it and he finds some huge farm. I think he'll go for the Ag Scepter first, has the point booster already. So if he ends up getting a Refresher Orb, this will be one long game to open our day 2 coverage.
What, you're not a fan of the Refresher Skywrath?
With this, oh yes, the classic Refresher Skywrath. Ah, yes. You know, sometimes you just need to refresh that Mystic Flare.
Mm-hmm.
You got to do what you got to do, man.
Refresh that 0-second cooldown, break time.
If only you could refresh your mana pool, then it would be good.
Yeah, that would be insane. Yeah. Well, think about it this way. He's already got 1 cheese. With this game lasts, let's say, 30 minutes longer. He can stack up a few cheeses. That 40-second cooldown, take it away. Suddenly, you got unlimited mana.
Yeah, there you go. That is a strategy. Just stack cheeses on Skywrath Mage, and then You get to the end, sort of like holding your wards. You know, you don't have any ward coverage for the mid game, but then you get to 45 minutes, and the entire map is just covered in vision. And around that same time, maybe a little later, your Skywrath, he's got a couple cheeses, and before you know it, it's just nonstop Mystic Flares.
Unlimited
Good
power.
stuff. Yeah.
You're just like a Sith Lord there, just dropping lightning everywhere.
We call that the take a nap in the mid game and win the late game strategy. You just turtle up and save all your wards, try not to die, and then just try to seal the deal in that 5-minute window when you have vision of the entire map.
Hashtag
Both sides,
redefining
man. They
mid
really
game.
are committed to the farm. They're just sitting back. And you can kind of draw a line across the map here where it's just farm city.
Well, that's a little bit of redefinition of late game offlaner. We have the Maelstrom Warlock.
Whoa.
Do they have?
Wow.
I mean, like if they had like 4 Liquid Spheres, this would make sense to me because it pops that pretty easily. But otherwise, I really have no idea.
Yeah, this is really. I'm thinking.
Get that deeps.
Okay, they've got a couple. I don't know. This is really funky. Of all the heroes on their team to grab a Maelstrom,
And he bought out.
there's some
for it,
other
too.
items that.
Like he doesn't
Pardon?
even have buyback. It's that's high in his wish list. I don't even know.
Yeah. I mean, he'll be able to farm a little bit, but there's some other items Warlock could get here that would be pretty damn good. I mean, even just a Scythe of Ice is a step in the right direction, a big item. Extra crowd controls. If he wants to get a little more right-click, even an Orchid is not the craziest thing right now. Of course, there are a lot of BKBs out, but still some heroes without it. I mean, even an Orchid on Skywrath that's still feels better than a Maelstrom. That's kind of what I'm... If Maelstrom is your gold standard for items on Warlock, then I feel like about half the items in the shop are
Yeah.
you know, potential upgrades.
Hell, I'd
Down
say-
bottom, we'll see a Scythe of Ice. Out on the Queen of Pain, but there's a Ravage. Black Hole on both of them. Do they have the damage to bring them down, though? BKB's popped plenty. Quap will pop hers, but she'll still fall. Now the Tidehunter on the run. They have the damage to bring him down. It's a 2-for-0. Balls will pick up a double kill. He gets it in deep as Immunity. Find a pickoff. Let's look at buybacks here. Quap does have it, and the Tidehunter, he has it as well.
Yeah, but
There's
they really
the buyback
wanted to
already.
in this fight. The fact that they only have 1 is insanely brutal. But they're backing off right now. They'll force 1 buyback. They're happy with that. Tidehunter having only 1 life for the next 5 minutes is something they can just tally up on the timer and decide, okay, we have timed aggression now. We can wait for a specific Roche fight where they only have 1 Tidehunter and try to prevent both ultimates. I'm not too sure. But right now, Ravage is on cooldown, buyback is on cooldown, and we're going to look for a pickoff on Godot here. He does, however, have that Hex.
Yeah, and, well, in comes Shadow Shaman. He'll give him a taste of the Hex medicine. Roster wards come down, Shackles fly, and this will be a pretty easy kill on the Nature's Prophet. Yep, Shadow Shaman will finish him off. So if the Shadow Shaman wasn't there, probably would have been able to scoot away with that Blink Dagger and Hex. But Rasta in the right place at the right time. Just an FYI, guys, maybe I need to work on my sarcastic tone. I'm well aware Mystic Flare with Ags has a 0-second cooldown, and Refresher is useless. Yeah. That was witty banter back and forth. We need to work on our delivery here, Blaze.
I suppose
The flames are real. Oh, God. But slow. 50 minutes in. 32 kills, both teams. Well, looking for the opening, but it's been little more than just stray pickoffs here and there. Almost a pickoff on the Warlock. He'll take a concussive, but no follow-up. He'll walk away to safety. Scared of the Maelstrom.
Yeah, most definitely. Not what's lurking behind the Warlock, but definitely the lightning itself. He's channeling his inner Zeus here, and that's just imba. But no, I really like. We keep on talking about the Maelstrom and joking about it. There's so many things that I can think of that would be better. I mean, he could save for buyback. He could save for BOTs, which mobility is really important at this stage in the game, and also the casual Ring of Basilius.
He didn't even go Arcanes. He decided on the Tranquils.
Yeah, that's your mobility for you. I don't know. I do not know.
Yeah.
Like, what I'm thinking is, if he had just upgraded the Ring of Basilius into Vlad's, that's +3 armor for the entire team. That's a huge difference right there. That half counteracts the Slick's AC. I don't know.
Yeah. There's some truth to that. It just feels like such a minor edge for a reasonably large investment relative to how much Warlock is farming, you know? We'll see. PM Winter after the game and ask him what the strategy behind the madness is. Wind Ranger now has a Scythe of Ice, so that is the second Scythe for the Radiant side and the third Scythe of the game. More crowd controls coming about. And still 1,600 gold up on Slicks. The 4th Roche will be up here in just a second. A very fast Roche respawn. 2 seconds after the initial timer expires. Neither side will scout it out, and right now vision control of the Roche pit is in favor of the Dire. Of course, 4th Roche means there is cheese for the taking.
Yeah, that's pretty huge. Need to get that on the Skywrath. Oh, he used the previous one, or he passed it along. Nah, he passed it over to the Razor. We don't get the double stack cheese. Refresher or Pocket Strat TI5.
Yep. And yeah, again, we see on the mini-map some big circles. They're skeptical. But again, Immunity will not force the issue, and they will just let Roche fall. So I think the total Roche tally has been 3-1. Dire have picked it up quite a few more times than Immunity. Let's see who grabs the Aegis this time. It will be Quap once more, and the cheese, they're thinking about it, but it is Enchantress who comes over and grabs it. She has now completed her Mask of Madness as well. That impetus will be devastating in this next team fight. As you mentioned, that pure damage, pretty darn good against BKB.
Yeah, it's, well, not against BKB, but assuming they're not BKB, then yeah.
Yes, yeah, sorry, I was a brain fart. I was looking at the Nature's Prophet and thinking, now he has a BKB, and that was my the odd connection. I've had enough caffeine. But yeah, even more magic immunity. That's the 4th BKB. Plums here, the Skywrath is the only one not a member of the BKB club for the Radiant.
Yeah, well, when you're up against the double Ravage, like, that's your only solution, is to have BKB for at least one of them, because otherwise you're just going to get absolutely crushed. This is, I won't go there, but, yeah, the late game potential for these items, however, is tapering off. We've got 5 seconds on Razor, we've got 8 seconds on the Enigma, and Slicks had his for just a little bit here, and he's down to 9. So the big thing is the Razor. He's very susceptible to 2 hits, and if they can focus him down, those Eye of the Storms expire pretty quickly.
Yeah, they certainly do. And with that, Johnny's Revenge will smoke up all 5 heroes in the mid lane. They're baiting with the Queen of Pain a bit here, hoping that Immunity will jump on her, but they seem privy to it. They are all grouped up in the base, ready to defend these melee racks. Glyph standing, of course, as there's been no pressure on the base for quite some while. Take a look at the buybacks here. Tides is still on cooldown for another 50 seconds, and Skywrath is the only one without enough gold. Other than that, everyone else has a buyback available on both sides of the coin. The smoke will be revealed. Double damage rune up on the Warlock. All the heroes, they're ready for the right clicks. So Creep Wave will get cleaned up, but Rasta blinks forward, throws down the wards, and they'll start chipping away at this melee racks. Wards just get cleaned up straight away. There's your first Ravage, connects on 4, and the second Ravage on 4 as well. Sonic Wave for the follow-up damage. Razor and Wind Ranger first to go down, instant buybacks, but not the team fight that Immunity were looking for. Shaitan off to the side, has the black hole, but just no opening. They'll bring down the Aegis. That's the only thing they've gotten so far. Johnny in some trouble. Refresher comes out from the Razor, has the double Eye of the Storm on. They have the racks still standing somehow. All of these buybacks on the Radiant side, they need a recovery. Now Johnny in trouble. The Lightning almost enough to bring him down, but the Chaotic Offering will buy him some space. Queen of Pain still alive. Again, it was just the Aegis that went down. Now they'll go in onto the Shadow Shaman. They get a kill on that support. So many resources expended for Immunity to make this hold. They keep the melee racks up. They get a couple of recovery kills. Looks like the Warlock will fall. So they find 2 hero kills out of it. But it was 3 buybacks. Wind Ranger, Nature's Prophet, and Razor all had to buy back to make it happen.
Yeah, I mean, even with those buybacks, though, it's still impressive that they were able to make that kind of repulsion. I mean, how do you come out of a fight where 2 Ravages hit on 4 heroes without them getting a single BKB off and still end up standing? I mean, it looked for a second like it was a certain form of Japanese anime there, but it just got really in favor of Immunity once they pushed forward with those buybacks. And really, JR are very limited in this sense. They have the Tidehunter buyback, but what's he going to do with that Ravage? And then the Enchantress, she's got to make sure she makes the most of her 2 lives.
Yeah, Sonic Wave flies through balls, taking a lot of damage. He has a BKB, but never gets to use it. Oh, the Razor first of all. There's the black hole on 3. He doesn't catch the tide, but they don't need it. No Ravage to interrupt. Queen of Pain will fall. Instant buyback. Now the silence on Warlock. Mech buys him some time. The Shackle will latch. They just don't have the damage. The Dire ready to retaliate. BKB's popped. Enigma falls. Now Slicks microing his way through the trees. Will force Staff to the high ground. He survives. Meanwhile, on the base, Godot looking for a kill on to the Enchantress. One more auto attack to bring her down, but the Mask of Madness, she's too fast. Those are some of the fastest sprinks I've ever seen. She survives. Now Godot way in deep. He'll try to TP home, but that won't happen. The Enchantress goes back in, and it's a suicidal Fawn. Oh, boy. She lives and then dies. Still immunity. They get cleaned up. This is rough.
The great escape, but then just walk right back into it. I don't know. He thought the Untouchable would save him, but I don't know. The attack speed Nature Prophet has accrued just on base stats. I mean, he's got a good edge game, 1.9. So, yeah, Furion gets that last hit in. Now the dust settles, and I don't even know what to think. Like, we have the Tide and Enchantress buyback as well as Chatons, but I don't know. It's like every time a fight starts with the best possible ultimates. That was a 4-man Midnight Pulse Black Hole for full duration, and it doesn't finish it off. Like, that doesn't make sense, but it's just about who has the damage and where, and if they're ready to follow up on those great initiations.
But now Immunity, they are in some serious trouble. No glyph available. Johnny's Revenge will go straight in the mid lane, and there aren't buybacks here. Nature's Prophet will be down for 60 seconds. The other heroes on their way up, but Frost Wards have come down already for this Tier 3 tower, and this bottom lane of Rax will soon fall. And just not a hell of a lot of immunity can do about it. The Refresher on Enigma is not out yet, so he'll be forced to wait 75 seconds until he has the Black Hole, and that will be the end of the bottom lane of Rax. So Johnny's Revenge, pretty close to sealing the deal for victory here as we're about to approach the 60-minute mark. Is there any hope for immunity here, Blaze? I mean, how can they possibly turn this around after seeing those back and forth team fights?
If Shaitan sells the mechanism and finishes up his Refresher Orb, you could go for the double Midnight Pulse Black Hole or the single Midnight Pulse with double Black Hole. There's so many different ways you can actually make that work for you, but it seems like they're all in play because generally speaking, they don't have AoE damage on their team. Like, they obviously have some skills that work in that capacity, but not in a scaling fashion. So getting 4 people in a Black Hole isn't going to be really the end of the world unless you get some really good Midnight Pulses down underneath that. So I think he needs a Refresh Orb and needs to cast some insane spells behind it. But he's still a little ways off. No, he is very close to the Oblivion Staff, but he still has to sell something.
Well, more big items are coming out. The Mjolnir now picked up by Warlock. Let the right clicks commence. The Daedalus also on the Nature's Prophet, and as you were talking, there's the Refresher for Enigma. So there is maybe one last fight in him, and there will be a Roche coming up before too long here. I think it's another short. The timer popped up, and I think it will be another short respawn for Roche number 5 as the Blueberry Knight here flies over and scouts it out. Quap did pick up a fresh 10-second BKB as well, so magic immunity for her is at the maximum.
You wonder why these Star Ladder matches have an hour and 15 minutes allocated, but this is why. These epic matches, these just crazy games, and now we see the initiation, the Black Hole onto 1 though.
Only onto Johnny. The first Chaotic Offering comes down. There's the second one. 4 golems on the field. Wards come down in the middle. Enigma's the first to go down. BKB popped by Razor. Eye of the Storm comes out. Godot caught in the fray. Completely surrounded by golems. There's the first Ravage. Refresh. Where's Ravage number 2? They might not even need it. They don't. It's a full 5 for Nil Exchange. The GGs come out. And immunity will crumble at the end. Just shy of the 60-minute mark. A back-and-forth game. But Johnny's Revenge seal the deal. And take our first game of the day.
Warlock Imba, right? I don't know. That was insane. They really needed the patient Enigma. They needed the super waiting for the opportunity, perfect Black Hole, and they needed to rest their hopes on that. Going for a single Black Hole, hoping for a second person to walk in just barely, that was a little bit too ambitious, and it kind of signed their fate. But they were already in a really bad spot. We saw just the superior potential of this draft in the late game for the Dire. And it's weird to say because, again, no traditional hard carries, but Enchantress scaled out of control with the late game, and Queen of Pain managed to contribute quite a bit as well. The Aghanim Scepter clearing out wave after wave of creeps, and that Hex, of course, being a very powerful item in the late game. But yeah, I think that means Warlock now has a 100% win rate with Mjolnir.
I believe so. We saw a couple of interesting item pickups. Not only the Mjolnir on Warlock, but also the Assault Cuirass on Wind Ranger. We talked about that one quite a bit. You did grab a Desolator first, so there was some minus armor synergy, but still just an oddly placed item on that hero. As you put it, if those are the kind of items you want to go for, there are other heroes that you can play that just work better and scale better, and perhaps if Slicks was on a true hard carry, things could have been a little bit different. But boy, what a back and forth game one to get things started. We've got 2 more games coming your way for day 2 of StarLadder Season 10 SEA coverage. I'm Zyori in the studio, joined remotely by Blaze. Up next, we have First Departure versus Awake. So we'll have a quick break here, guys, and then hop right into our next game of the day.